And so we're going to go ahead and dive into the different developmental grief responses. Please keep in mind that everyone mourns differently, but there are some common experiences based on age that some children may have signs in other developmental stages when they're close to ending or beginning a stage. So, for example, a 2-year-old, even though it's babies and toddlers, they might show preschool age concerns, or vice versa. Let's say it's a 2-year-old, they might show baby toddler symptoms. So just keep that in mind. If they're on that border age, they could go in either category. And so let's start with the babies and toddlers. Before we get started, many times people don't recognize that babies and toddlers can experience loss. So when they have a caregiver who's consistently there and they get used to their smell, get used to their hairline, get used to the person, and then all of a sudden that person is stripped away. The person is no longer there. They may not be able to verbally say, hey, someone's missing, but they recognize that something's changed, something's not consistent, something's different, something's missing. And so many times when a little one between ages 0 and 2 experiences a loss, there can be some separation anxiety that pops up. Easily agitated can happen as well. Very clingy towards certain individuals can happen as well. And so that can be a sign of them experiencing grief, recognizing that something's missing, that they're experiencing a loss. Changes in feeding and sleeping habits. So this is a crucial one, especially for those of you who work with families. I know some of you had mentioned in the chat working with families. And so what happens many times is, let's say a parent dies. Many times other members or friends will come into the home to give the remaining parent support on just taking care of the house, taking care of the little ones. And what happens sometimes is communication is missed. And so it's important for us to educate, give some psychoeducation to the parents about being mindful of sharing with the people who are coming into the home. This is when they usually eat. This is how much they usually eat. This is when they usually sleep. This is how long they usually sleep. So when the person comes into the home, they already know, okay, this is how much they usually eat. This is how long they usually sleep for. And if they notice a change, maybe the little one didn't eat as much, or maybe the little one seemed extra hungry, or maybe the little one didn't sleep hardly at all, or maybe they slept a really long time and it's happening consistently, then that lets us know that there's a possibility that they could be experiencing grief. And the last one is increased distress. We talked a little bit about that when it came to anxiety, but increased distress. So again, a parent, maybe they were the one who consistently put them to bed or consistently was feeding them. And now that person is no longer feeding them, that person is no longer putting them to bed. There could be increased distress around those certain time periods. And then whenever it comes to working with parents with little ones, it's very important that we remind our parents to engage in self-care. You're going to hear me say that through each of the age groups, but it's very important that we remind our parents to, again, engage in self-care. Even if it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes of an extra long shower, or doing some painting, or going for a walk, or just sitting in silence with all that candle. Maybe whatever it is for them, working with them on how can we get 10, 15 minutes alone to yourself, so you yourself can grieve your loss and just sit with your loss. Because it can be very overwhelming for them to experience a loss and also have other responsibilities as well. So definitely check in with our parents. And then preschool age, ages 2 to 4. This is where vocabulary is very important. So we want to do our best to stay away from euphemisms. Try to avoid them as much as possible and try to use concrete language. And so the challenge with using euphemisms is that it confuses the little one. It can be very challenging for them to understand what's happening. So for example, let's say a little one says, hey, where's mommy? And the remaining parent says, we lost mommy. What do you think that child's going to think? Okay, well, let's go find mommy. Or they ask, where's Sissy? We lost Sissy. Okay, let's go find Sissy. So try to encourage our parents to use concrete language. And of course, we have one-on-one sessions with our parents before communicating with the little ones so that we're all on the same page on what kind of language you want to use when communicating with the little one and when teaching the little one as well. And so concrete language could be mommy's body stopped working or sissy's body stopped working. She's not here anymore. So again, try to use a very concrete language. And of course, many times it could be related to a tragedy. It could be an overdose. It could be an accident. It could be a murder. It could be a lot of different things. So be mindful of the language that we're using. I highly encourage parents to not lie to their children. Just be mindful of what we do share. Make sure it's truth. Make sure it is age appropriate language, age appropriate information. And as they get older, maybe sharing more and more information. And of course, this is ongoing conversations you're having with your parents. But lying to little ones in the long run actually is more detrimental because what it teaches them is I can't trust my caretaker. I can't trust adults. I can't trust those around me. So when they need to talk about something, when they need to open up about something, it's hard for them to find someone because they've been lied to when they were little. And so, again, it's very important that we give education, psychoeducation to parents, the value of being honest with our little one, but at the same time, being mindful of their age. So making sure it's age appropriate information. And the next one is anxiety. Anxiety can be very common in little ones. So maybe they seem a little more needy, a little more clingy. Also, they might feel abandoned at this time. So lots of nurturing it definitely needs to be present as well. Allow lots of play during this time, whether it's one-on-one parent interaction or caregiver interaction, lots of play with their peers as well. And then repeating the story happens quite often during this age. So the little one will ask the parent over and over, where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's sissy? Where's sissy? Where's sissy? And it's important that we prepare our parents for those conversations. Your little one's going to ask it over and over and over. And so making sure our parents recognize the importance of, again, self-care and being able to repeat the story to the little one over and over as many times as the little one needs to have it repeated. Because what happens sometimes is the little one will ask a question every day after school, hey, where's sissy? Where's sissy? And sometimes parents can be so overwhelmed with work, with responsibilities, with being the sole caretaker now. Sometimes they can lash out at the little one unintentionally, but lash out at the little one. And what kind of message do you think that sends to their 2 to 4-year-old? Okay, I can't talk about this because it makes mommy upset. It makes daddy upset. It makes caretaker upset. So I can't talk about sissy anymore. So it gives them that message. So again, helping our parents to come up with some healthy coping skills to emotionally regulate themselves after a loss. And the next age range is the elementary school, which is ages 5 to 9. And so I do want to actually take a step back to 2 to 4-year-olds. So many times when it comes to 2 to 4-year-olds, they may be able to start tying their shoe or putting their clothes on or buttoning up their shirt. Many times after major loss, sometimes they might revert backwards and they might need extra help from their parents on how to button their shirt, tie their shoes. So also prepare parents for that as well. Many times they might revert back to a younger age. And so again, elementary school, ages 5 to 9, many times these little ones are a little more independent, more concrete thinkers. And so by this age, some younger ones aren't able to recognize that death is irreversible. So the older ones are able to recognize that more towards the 8 and 9-year-olds are able to recognize that death is irreversible. So just kind of being mindful of that. The little bit, 8 to 9-year-olds, be able to recognize that. Many times during this age range, they could have a lot of intense emotional reactions. And then the next moment act as if nothing happened. Yeah. Also, during this age range, responsibility gets on their shoulders. So what happens is many times little ones will interject themselves into the storyline. So for example, there's a little one I was working with. Unfortunately, his dad died in a truck accident. And his thought was, it's my fault that my dad died. Now, mind you, he wasn't in the car, he wasn't in the truck, he was nowhere nearby, he was in a completely different location, but he felt responsible for his dad's death. And so after talking with him, come to find out, his thought was, if only I had been in the truck with dad, I could have said, hey, dad, look out for that car. And then dad would still be alive. And so you'll notice that if you work with little ones, ages 5 to 9 years old, many times they will interject themselves into the storyline and put that responsibility on their shoulders. I know earlier I had mentioned different types of losses. I know right now I'm talking primarily about death, but also divorce as well, separation of parents. Many times, children at this age will interject themselves into the storyline, saying, man, if only I hadn't been bad in school, or if only I hadn't yelled, or if only I hadn't cried so much, maybe mommy and daddy would be back together. So it's important that us as clinicians are mindful that, again, usually around this age range, they will interject themselves into the story and put that responsibility on their shoulders. Also, during this age range, regression can happen as well. So many times they're able to do things on their own, and then all of a sudden they need more help doing things. And so, keeping that in mind, many times there could be changes in sleeping patterns and eating habits as well. Also, during this age range, there's a lot of complaints related to physical ailments, such as headaches, tummy aches. So they may go to the nurse's office at school a lot more, and the parent will be called to the school a lot more. And so that could be a sign that they're grieving.